Parker Town Council for December 2nd, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. All council members are present. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First item up is public comment. Public comment's an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items not on tonight's agenda. This comment period is limited to the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and if there's follow-over, we'll get it at the end. You are allotted 3 minutes for your public comment. So far, I have Pat Marshall from Parker, from Stroh Ranch signed up. Come on down, Ms. Marshall, and if you will, state your name and address for the record while I get the 3 minutes up here.
Okay. My name is Pat Marshall. I am in Stroh Ranch, Parker.
Great. Go ahead.
Good evening. I would thank you for serving on the council. I'd like to discuss the numerous and alarming ordinance repeals being presented tonight, presumably for future multifold allowances to the already burgeoning Parker town government. I am troubled about the following impacts of repealing these ordinances to modernize the town of Parker, which has seen an explosion boom since 2000. The repealed ordinances are vague and being replaced with an equally vague modified commercial bucket, which can be reclassified at any time and which would conflict with and negatively impact existing residential zones. Yeah. Assuming the intent is to attract businesses, the businesses may not align with the character of the area and disrupt the existing community fabric. Also, if a property was permitted under older zoning but does not comply with the new regulations, the property owner might face restrictions on expanding or altering their property. This could be problematic for longstanding businesses or residents who were previously allowed to operate without interference. Furthermore, presumably rezoning to offer ADUs and increased housing diversity will not only change the Parker town demographic and character, new developments will drive up property taxes, and property values would instantly plummet, and homeowners would face challenges selling their properties at a desirable price. Parker and Douglas County as a whole already is going through an increase in property taxes, which will soon skyrocket even more, no thanks to the $500 million mill bond that recently passed for the school district. The small town feel would be gone, if it isn't already, with unwanted modernized development. Also, rezoning for new developments, whatever they may be, would heighten environmental concerns, like areas prone to flooding. Expanding further on these ordinance repeals, this spells uncertainty for existing small businesses as they would struggle with stricter rules or rezoning their location and could face costly compliance issues if the new zoning comes with new development standards. You can say goodbye to small business shop days as competition would increase and maybe even force some small businesses out of business. Let's not forget about traffic. Rezoning for high-density housing would undoubtedly increase traffic, which is already encumbered by the population expansion in real time. I'm offering an example of the sinkhole incident in Bradbury Ranch that occurred on June 11th of 2023. The more modified commercial structures we add to Parker, the more traffic, parking, and infrastructure woes we can expect. Polis himself has targeted parking policies in Denver to accommodate housing and transportation. A significant part of this policy, especially relevant to urban areas, involves allowing higher density housing without the need for developers to include extensive off-street parking, which often drives up construction costs. Additionally, there is a movement towards rethinking parking strategies for areas with high-density buildings, including high-rise apartments. This includes the possibility of charging occupants to park on the street or reconsidering public parking availability. The goal is to reduce car dependence and promote more sustainable transit-oriented lifestyles. But at what cost? The cost of living in Parker has increased exponentially and will continue to increase if we start repealing and rezoning. In short, I'm against the repealing of numerous ordinances. We need the space. We need to be a small town with limited government, and these ordinances appear to be the only thing standing in the way, it seems, of the same path Denver is taking. Parker is not Denver, and this district has a unique makeup. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Anyone else wishing to address the council tonight for public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to reports, items, and comments from mayor and council. And I'll start to my immediate left, Councilmember Dyak.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody had a good holiday season this past week with friends and family. The Dyaks did, and we were very grateful to have who we had to celebrate the holiday with. On the 20th, I had a DRCOG Board of Directors meeting. I forwarded a brief summary to the rest of council on what was being talked about. On the 21st, we had a Partnership of Douglas County elected officials reception, and an incredible turnout. Good to network with the Douglas County local elected officials. And on the 22nd, attended a Parker Chamber economic breakfast. Good to hear the Federal Reserve individual talk. Didn't give us a whole lot of anything. I think he said he could talk for 6 hours and you wouldn't know what he said. But again, good detail and good thoughts coming our way. And an additional speaker from the Arvada Chamber of Commerce to kind of give us local small business people some thoughts as to how to move forward and be successful. So thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
So on November 20th, I went to the Vivint Blood Donations grand reopening ribbon cutting. So they are still in the same building, but they have a new, bigger space. And it's just, it's wonderful to see how many people showed up for that. But I'm going to do a little plug. In the holidays, a lot of people need blood donations. I myself have been a recipient of blood donations before. So if you can suck up, 30 minutes of your time and go give blood, please do. And that's my plug. On the other things that Councilmember Dyak said, and then I'll save a couple for those. I went and saw Santa Circus at the Pace Center with my kids, and that was phenomenal. If you've ever seen a Cirque du Soleil show, it was like that, but with Santa and for little ones, and that was wonderful. And then we went and saw the Cherry Poppin' Daddies concert for my husband's birthday, which is today, but we went and saw that. So if you guys haven't seen a show at the Pace Center, I highly recommend you go do so.
Councilmember Hefta?
Yes, it's been a busy couple of weeks since the election, and so we had the elected officials reception that most all of us went to. We had the mayor's holiday lighting that was spectacular the other night. Really, really enjoyed that. And then we had the 2024 Parker Economic Update Breakfast that most of us went to as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Thank you, Mayor. Along with other events that other council members mentioned, I did attend the Legend High School football game last Saturday, and happy to report they're going to the state championship for the first time this Saturday, playing up in CSU. So, go Titans.
Councilmember Barrington?
I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving also, and I don't think I have anything to report that hasn't already been reported. Go Titans.
Great. Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. Obviously, a lot going on. It's already been stated. On top of that, I had Cherry Creek Basin Water Quality Authority last meeting of the year, and we passed our budget. And other than that, I don't have anything else to report. I will just state that what the public sees on consent agenda as far as the repeal of ordinances, this is first reading, and second reading will be on January 6th at that meeting. And that meeting will be discussion on all of these ordinances and going through exactly what we are doing. So I would encourage anybody interested on the repeal of those ordinances to be here on January 6th for the public hearing.
And Mayor-elect, thank you for stepping in for the Nutcracker to deliver your first mayor's toast.
Appreciate that.
You'll get 5 of them. So that's my gift to you.
Thank you,
my
sir.
parting gift. All right. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for introduction only and will not be removed. So, council, you have a long list of 4A through 4H for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 4A through H, please.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Barrington. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. And Mayor-elect, that is your first agenda item. There's 32 items, I believe.
Yes.
But who's counting?
Yes.
You'll be fine. All right, first up on our resolutions is resolution number 24-055, a resolution to appoint members of the Parker Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Advisory Commission to appoint a chair. And we have our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, Mary Colton, with us. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening, everyone. All right, so 2 original members of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission, Candace Sotwick and Toby Levy, have served an initial 2-year term that both expire on December 31st. So 29 days and counting. All right, the vacant positions were advertised by the Parks and Recreation Department, and 3 applications were received to include both Candace and Toby. I believe we have them in attendance tonight. Are they? Toby's not, no, Toby could be. We do have other members of the Pros Commission with us tonight, so we'll introduce them later. Interview panel consisted of council members Rivero and Wilkes, along with staff members Brenda Mooney and myself. Toby and Candace were unanimously selected for the 2 vacant positions with new 3-year terms. Both have done an outstanding job as both secretary and vice president and have done exceptional work on the Pros Commission. Heather Bennett, who I don't believe is in attendance tonight, has also done a wonderful job serving as the chair of the Pros Commission for the past 2 years and plans to continue in that role pending all of your approval. So tonight we recommend approving Resolution 24-055 to appoint members to the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Advisory Commission and to appoint a chair.
Great. We'll start with staff questions for you, but then, I'm sure someone will want to ask a potential new commissioner a question here or there. So,
Okay.
Laura have to. Councilmember Hendricks, any staff questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Rivero?
No questions. I'll just state that both of the appointed members are not in the room currently.
That is correct. Yes.
Good for the save. Councilmember Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No
And
questions.
Councilmember Hefta?
Is this my chance to ask the question of them?
Well, they're not
They're
here.
They're not
here.
in
They're
attendance.
Oh, they're not here.
But you can ask.
But yeah, if you would
The
like to
director.
ask me one or any other, yeah, that's fine. Happy to attempt to answer the question.
It's somebody's phone. Close to the mic.
It's just my mic. Every time I turn it on, it does it.
Okay.
What quality are you looking for when you interview people and appoint people in this process?
Well, we ask prospective commissioners what their interest is in becoming a commissioner on the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission and to serve in that capacity, what issues are important and of priority to them, and what Parks and Recreation means to them in the community. What ideas they have for, informing us and being our eyes and ears to the community and being an extension of us of sorts. So those are the types of things we look for in commissioners.
Just
Yeah.
one follow-up. Do you find that most people that apply are very involved in the activities for Parks and Recs in the community?
Yes, some more than others, and some as part of their interest in becoming a commissioner is to immerse more in Parks and Recreation. So they really, have that interest and that curiosity about Parks and Recreation. And I will say that the current commissioners have done an amazing job of volunteering, becoming part of our programs, and really immersing themselves in our Parks and Recreation system overall. So we have an amazing group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'll open up resolution number 24-055 for public comment. If anybody from the public wishes to make a comment about the appointments.
Speak now or forever.
Yep. Opened at 7:15, closed at 7:15, and we'll bring it back to council in that reverse order for any final comments on these appointments. Councilmember Hefta?
Thank you, Mary.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No, I mean, you always do a phenomenal job, and the amount of volunteer work that comes into this doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you to all of our pros people.
Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, along the lines of Councilmember Wilkes, it's always good to get involved, invested in your community. No matter what you do, it helps greatly, making Parker a better place to be. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. The qualities I think that Councilwoman Hefta was asking is incredibly represented on this pros commission. We have a wide swath of people, from a former director of Parks and Rec, I believe, to an athlete, to parents, to fundraising people. I mean, it is an incredible group, and represents a good slice of Parker's interest in their, probably one of their biggest assets as far as the parks and open space that we have in this community. So incredibly well done. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yeah, I appreciate what everybody's doing also. Thank you for stepping up, and I trust your opinions, and Councilmember Wilkes and Rivero. So thank you, both of you,
And-
for stepping up too.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yeah, have seen citizens being active in the community makes the community a better place, so thank you.
Great. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 24-055 for the appointment of new members and a chair.
I move to approve resolution number 24-055 as part of the regular agenda.
A second.
Motion is made by Wilkes, seconded by Hefta. Rivero.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Wilkes. Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. We'll move on to ordinances. We have two ordinances and a resolution, and I believe, Alex, we're going to take that as a whole presentation, right?
Correct. We can do votes in between presentations as well, I think, so.
Okay,
It's
so
one big presentation, but we'll take them one at a time.
okay, so I'll read those in real fast, and then we'll get to the vote, or to the presentation. Ordinance number 4.406 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to amend Chapter 11.10 of the Park and Municipal Code concerning grading and earth movement. Ordinance number 4.53.9 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to amend Chapter 10.09 of the Park and Municipal Code concerning public right-of-way construction, excavation, and work, and resolution number 24-059, a resolution to adopt the development-related user fee schedule and administrative code fee schedule effective January 1st, 2025. Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So to quickly give you an overview of why these are looped together, let's see if I can get this to switch. There we go. So the first two items do propose revisions to our code regarding right-of-way permits and grading permits. Among some other minor changes, the main purpose of these code revisions are to lay the framework to add fees to these permits or to change the existing fees. They won't actually do that. The fees will be set in the resolution, the third item, but the first two items set the framework within the code for those fee changes. So to jump in, the first item involves right-of-way use permits. Just a quick summary of what these are. They are how the town governs construction within public right-of-way. We issue about 300 of these annually. A typical right-of-way permit might cover utility work under a roadway, development-related utility work or roadway improvements, things like that fall under the right-of-way permit umbrella. Really what the permits do is they set requirements for things like traffic control, when lanes can be closed, when the work can be performed, things that impact the public within the public right-of-way get kind of codified and reviewed along with a right-of-way use permit. The code, section of code is 10.09 that sets forth the requirements for right-of-way permits. We're really proposing kind of three changes to the code. The first one clarifies that the liability insurance required with a right-of-way permit can be provided either through the owner or developer of the property or project or through the contractor. And really, this kind of codifies what we've done in practice for many years. Generally, these owners like to have their contractors provide the liability insurance because they're the ones actually performing the work. They're the ones taking on the liability. The owner's typically named in that policy as well as the town, but really it's more appropriate for the contractor to provide that liability insurance. So this just clarifies within the code that is acceptable within our permits. The second bullet point is the main one that we're talking about, and that is to add what we call lane closure fees and the associated deposit. And really, that's being proposed to address some challenges staff has had in managing the traffic impacts of right-of-way permits, and I'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide. The last change is just to set forth a requirement that all restoration associated with the work on right-of-way permits must be completed within 30 days of the work being finished. So that's just to make sure contractors come back within 30 days, do any pavement restoration, sidewalk restoration, landscape restoration that needs to be done with these permits. So to jump back to the lane closure fees, again, our goal with this, and we've talked to other jurisdictions that do similar fees, is really just to motivate the contractors to plan their work better, to minimize how often they're in the roadway and minimize how often they're disrupting the traveling public with this work. over the years, we've had, issues with some of these type of projects, and over the last 2 years, we've had several. The challenge staff faces is that our current permit structure and code doesn't have any time limits for being on the road. There's really not much we can do once they're in the road working with a permit to get them out of the road. They have to finish the work, but they may not be motivated to do that. We've had several instances where we've just had disorganized projects, disorganized contractors that have been on the road much longer than they really needed to, in our opinion. So the idea is to start having fees where, the main one would be a lane closure fee. Basically, you would have to pay us for every day you have a lane closed on a given roadway. That way, that really forces them and motivates them ideally to, again, plan their work intelligently to be on the road as little as they can. In practice, how we would do that is we would agree with a permit application. We would have the contractor provide a schedule, come to an agreement on how many days we think the lanes need to be closed. That would be the fee that we collect up front. There would be an associated deposit with that. We would take an additional deposit based on the fee. We would hold that through the work. If they finish when they're supposed to, they get the whole deposit back. If they don't, we can charge additional days from that deposit. So that's how we would propose to administer that fee. The second item here is what's called a permitted peak hour lane closure fee. And what that means is any work that needs to be done outside of our general work hours on roadways, which is 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., would incur a separate fee. And the reason for that is because lane closures during our morning or afternoon rush hours are much more impactful than having a lane closed during the day. When people are rushing off to school or work, a lot more traffic on the roads. I mean, just picture a lane closed on Lincoln Avenue at 5 p.m. That's going to cause considerable traffic delays. So we understand some work does have to be done. They may need to work all day. They may need to have lanes closed for multiple days. We can allow for that. But again, we want people to really think about how often they need to have the lane closed, how they're impacting the roadway, rather than just have it kind of be an open, yeah, sure, close the lane and finish whenever you're ready. Have some motivation behind that. And then the third bullet point is just increasing our violation fees, giving us more teeth to that, giving first and second offense violation fees for traffic control problems out there. So again, this ordinance, it proposes those three changes. It does not propose specific fees. That will be done in the resolution, the third item. But with that, we do recommend approval of these changes, and I can answer any questions on the right-of-way permit code changes.
Great. Thanks, Alex. We'll start with questions. Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. So this is from lessons learned, essentially. We have some contractors, as you said, that were maybe not as organized as they should be. So they put their cones out and then they plan their work, and the cones are still out and they're not doing anything, and the traveling public has witnessed that, correct?
Correct.
So ultimately, this is for the betterment of the livelihoods of our citizens, correct? The traveling public.
Correct. The main goal of this is to minimize the impacts to the traveling public on our roadways.
Thank you.
And
Go
oh, sorry. I guess on the flip side of that, so if there's a project, will staff kind of estimate how long you think a lane should be closed, and then they kind of get a free pass during that time, and if it goes above that time limit, then they start incurring fees? And
Yeah, kind of. So we would look for the contractor to give us a schedule. Here's how long they think it will take, and then we will review that on our end. And if we don't think it makes sense, we would obviously push back and eventually come to an agreement on how many days they need the road. That would be the fee. So there will be a fee for that, no matter how long they're on the road. It's just if they take longer than that, we can charge that deposit. So any lane closure will incur a fee. It's just really trying to motivate them to minimize the fee they have to pay to be on the road as little as possible.
And is like weather taken into account? And if you said that and I missed it, I apologize.
No, I mean, it would have to be on a case-by-case basis, right? I mean, if there's a blizzard or something, sure, we would have to make allowance for that. But weather days are a tricky thing in construction contracts. Often there's different interpretations of what it really is a weather day and were you really impacted. So in general, I don't think we would make allowances for that except in significant cases.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Alex, is there a range of fees? I mean, could you give us an example of how much the fees are and maybe where they go?
Sure, and we will get to that in the third item, the resolution that shows the proposed fees. But in general, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 to $100 per day, depending on the classification of roadway.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
Oh, I forgot that's not working. That was my question, so thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
So did you take into consideration that most of these contractors are trying to juggle jobs as well in this timeline? Because that would be reasonable. Most contractors are trying to juggle jobs.
Sure.
So could you explain that? And then could you go back to, the big picture of truly, maybe an example of why you feel this is necessary at this time?
Sure. Yeah, with the construction industry the way it is right now, everyone's busy. Contractors are very busy, and we recognize that. It really comes down to just planning their work better. I mean, we're not going to tell them, you have to do it now rather than later. It's just don't start closing lanes until you're ready to finish the work. Or if you have to close them and then come back later, that's fine too. It's really the issue we get into is when we have lanes closed for weeks on end, the work is stopping and starting, maybe because they didn't plan or they had a sub flake out on them, things like that. So that's what we're trying to minimize with this, is really making these contractors either drill down and schedule their work better, or they're going to have to pay larger fees.
Perhaps prior planning prevents poor performance might be a motto there.
There you go.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, we will open up the public hearing at 7:26 on ordinance number 4.40.6 or 4.53.9. Anyone from the public wish to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:27 and come back in that reverse order. Councilmember Hefta, we'll start with you.
No, I believe what you're proposing is absolutely reasonable. I don't think the town is trying to make money off of this matter. I think the town is trying to find a balance between a contractor taking months and months and months on end to complete a project while having the traveling public be impacted and then get back to us. And as I have understood it, other towns have fees like this as well. So this is entirely reasonable for the town of Parker to move forward on this matter. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes?
No, I mean, no, I appreciate the fact that it's kind of like when you're raising kids, you give them the rewards and you give them the incentives and they get their chores done quickly. It's along those same basis, obviously just on a much bigger scale. So I think overall throughout the town, this is going to have a better impact on how quickly and efficient everything gets done. And I think there was some growing pains in the beginning, but I really am supportive of this. So thank you.
Councilmember Dyer?
Nothing to add, but I'm supportive of this.
Councilmember Hendricks?
I'm in support as well. This is for the betterment of the community. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
I think this makes sense and will encourage some better planning. Thank you.
Councilman Rivera?
Thank you. I think that for me, when Parker doesn't have set ordinances, we are the ones that get pushed out. Other towns may be incentivizing contractors to do work quicker, and then they'll get back to Parker when they can because there's no penalties for them. So we're getting taken advantage of because we're not on par with our peers. So I'm definitely in support. I think it absolutely comes down to a betterment for our community. There's cones everywhere, and more often than not, we get blamed for those cones when it's not our work and it's not our teams and it's not our contractors. So I think this will definitely expedite the process and get those roads back to the public.
All right, council, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 4.40.6.
I move to approve ordinance number 4.40.6 on second reading, please.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak? Wilkes?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. And I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 4.53.9 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 4.53.9 on second reading, please.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The next couple slides go through that ordinance if you want to hold off on a vote on that one.
Oh, on,
Yeah, sorry. So far, we've gone through the right-of-way permit changes, the grading permit changes are next, and then the fee
okay, so
schedule
we
is
just
last.
approved 4.40.6, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Perfect.
So now you want to go through 4.53.9?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I rescind my motion.
I'll take it back. All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So to move forward to ordinance 4.539, this proposes code changes to our grading permit code. Just a quick summary, grading permits are required for any earth moving or grading operation in the town. It is primarily a stormwater pollution prevention measure. It ensures both proper erosion control is used on construction sites, and then it ensures the ultimate restoration and revegetation of disturbed construction sites. It's part of a state and federally mandated stormwater management program that the town is held to. We issue about 40 of these annually. The code changes to the grading permits are again, pretty minor. The one thing, the first bullet point here, we are going to remove, or we're proposing to remove specific fee amounts that are listed in the code. These were last updated in 2011. They're a bit outdated. We're going to propose revisions to that in the resolution, but this code change proposes to remove the specific amounts from the code and instead defer to a town council approved fee schedule. So that's one change. The second bullet point is really just to avoid confusion. We have a section called early grading permit. We're proposing to change that to conditional grading permit. And the reason for that is because it's often misinterpreted by developers. They see early grading permit and think it would allow them to begin grading before they have approved plans. That's not what it does. What it allows for is if you have two properties within the same development under the same ownership and one has approvals, you can consolidate earthwork among the two properties. That allows, all the earthwork to be done at once. It minimizes the impact on the community. You're not having all kinds of grading work going all the time. So that we're not proposing to change the meat of that section, just the title. So it doesn't say early grading permit and people think they can start grading early before approval. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, this ordinance does not revise the permit fee amounts. It just removes those references from the code along with that other change to the early grading permit. So again, staff does recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Councilmember Hefty, and we kick this off with questions.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
So just to clarify, because yes, the words grading, the early grading does mean that they can do it. I have words, I promise. To clarify, they still have to go through all the same process. It's just this is making it more clear and cleaning up the verbiage of it.
We're only changing the title.
Okay.
Yep, correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions, thanks.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thanks.
Councilman Rivera?
No questions.
All right, we'll open the public hearing at 7:32 on this. Anyone from the public wish to make public comment? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:33 and come back in reverse order for any final comments. Councilman Rivera, we'll start with you.
I think it's, again, same situation, betterment of our community and clear understanding from our contractors what's expected when they do work in our community. I'm in support.
Councilman Barrington?
I agree. I'm also in support. Thank you.
Councilman Hendricks?
Agreed, support.
Councilmember Dyak?
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
I just want to thank you for catching this and cleaning up the verbiage and doing the things that we need to do to make sure everything does work appropriately and smoothly. So thank you for that.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 4.53.9.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to restate my motion. I move to approve ordinance number 4.40. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would like to move to approve ordinance number 4.40.6 on second reading, please.
This is,
That's the second.
this is 4.53.9.
How about
Okay.
I make the motion?
Well, that's fine. I'm just stating this states here grading code revisions at 4.40.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Jamie, do we need to? So we had a motion on the vote on 4.53.9
Correct.
already.
They were out
This-
of order, though, yes.
This was 4.40.6.
Correct.
Okay.
I move to
So-
approve. Yeah.
I do think they were listed backwards, or they were handled backwards. So the prior one that was handled would have been 4.53.9, and this one would have been 4.40.6.
Madam Town Clerk, is that how you captured it? Yes. For the record? Okay. So Councilman Rivera, it's 4.40.6 for your motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 4.40.6, please, on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Rivera, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilks?
Aye.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. And last up is resolution number 24-059.
Thank you, and apologize for the
No worries.
confusion on that. So the final piece is a resolution that proposes to update the development user fee schedule. This schedule contains basically all fees that are used for development projects. So it covers things like plan review, construction inspections, and then the permitting fees that we've talked about for development projects. This schedule was last updated in 2021. It was part of a larger study from a outside consultant. I think many of you were here for that. The intent at the time was to revisit this schedule annually. Unfortunately, that has not happened. So now we're proposing to revisit it now to bring it up to current costs. And then we're also going to talk about the proposed fees that we've mentioned for the right-of-way and grading permits. So we'll take those in reverse order to start with the right-of-way permit fees. Again, we talked about what we're adding. The fees you'll see on the next slide are generally in line with some of our peer jurisdictions that use similar fees. So this slide shows what the proposed added fees to the right-of-way permit schedule would be. Under the first heading there with traffic control or lane closure fees, you can see they're tiered by roadway classification. So some of our larger roads, the arterial and major collector roadways, that would start at $150 a day. And then that steps down as you get to collector and local roads. We do have a closure fee for sidewalks because we don't want those being closed constantly either. That's much less than that. So they are tiered by basically how busy a road is and what the impact would be. And then the next heading under there, under the permitted peak hour lane closure fee, you can see that also is tiered by roadway classification. So for some of our more major roads where it's more impactful, that's a larger fee. The second heading there under violation fees is just what we talked about. You know, if there's work without a permit or work without utility locates that could be dangerous, those could incur a violation fee. And then the important one is traffic control violations with our first offense and second offense. Those are, again, tiered by roadway classification, but those allow us a little more teeth. If a contractor is doing what they're not supposed to, can start levying some of those fees and potentially revoke their permit if it gets to that point. So those are the proposed right-of-way permit fees. On the grading permit piece, again, these have not been updated since 2011, so we want to bring those up to current costs. There is an application fee that has been increased markedly to capture really the current review time we spend on this. It's not just engineering public works that reviews the grading permits. We also have finance involved, reviewing use tax stuff. We have risk management involving insurance certificates. We have planning and reviewing the prairie dog certification. So a lot of people are involved in these permits. And then the last piece is the security portion of a grading permit. The town requires what's called grading security be posted with any grading permit to secure the revegetation of the site. Theoretically, if someone defaulted on a grading permit, the town would take that money and then stabilize the site. That's the purpose of it. So construction costs to do that have increased markedly in the last 15 years. So we've increased those security amounts to reflect the construction costs that we would incur if we had to go in and stabilize a site with a grading permit. This slide shows those fees. Under the application administration fee, they again are tiered by the size of the construction site. Smaller sites will see an increase in their application fee because we do really the same reviews no matter the size of the site. It does go up a little bit because there is some additional stuff that needs to be done with larger sites, but the larger sites won't see as large of an increase as the smaller sites. And then on the grading security amounts between the developable and then the non-developable properties, those have basically doubled from 2011. Based on contractor input, it costs about $4,000 to stabilize and reseed 1 acre of disturbed land. So that's what we've based those numbers off. A developable property is something that will be redeveloped or redisturbed in the future. So for that, we're not as concerned about getting full revegetation and growth on a property like that because we know it'll be disturbed again in the future. But for a non-developable, that should be vegetated to its ultimate state. That's like open space or detention ponds or things like that. So, you know, in addition to the $4,000 for doing that, we'd have to probably come back and do some additional weed control and reseeding. So that amount is a little bit above the $4,000, if that makes sense. The last piece is the development user fees. This really includes the review and inspection fees for those services the town provides for development projects. Back in 2021, when this was brought to this current fee schedule was brought to the council for consideration, it's important to know that the current fees did not reflect a 100% cost recovery, meaning the town chose not to recover all the costs they incur in providing those services. So what we're proposing to do now is really just stay with that proportion that was decided back in 2021. We're proposing to increase it to basically match the increase in costs that the town has incurred over those years. Working with finance and with and with the town attorney's office, we determined the best and most equitable way to do that would be to look at the increase in personnel costs the town has incurred over those years. So total personnel costs has gone up about 24%, so that's what we are proposing to increase these fees by. Going forward, the resolution does include a clause that would increase these fees annually by the CPI annually. That's a pretty accepted measure of cost increases. Without knowing what personnel costs would be in the future, that seemed like a reasonable way to keep from getting behind again and having to do a large jump like this. 24% seems like a big number. It is a significant cost increase. I don't want to minimize that. But what I do want the council to understand is that these fees are generally pretty low as far as raw dollar amounts. I have a few examples here from some common reviews that are done on development projects. So for a construction plan review, for engineering, for street and stormwater plans on a smaller site, right now it's $920. That would go up about $200. Kind of the same thing for a drainage report. That's $560. That would go up about $150 to just under $700. For a planning plat review, about the same as construction plans, up from $900 to about $1,100. So I don't want to minimize the 24% increase. That is significant, but these are relatively low dollar amounts in the grand scheme of a development project. So this resolution 24-059, it would update the review and inspection fees as we discussed, and then it would also update the right-of-way and grading permit fee schedules as well. This would become effective on January 1st, and staff does recommend approval, and I can answer any questions about these.
Great. We'll kick off questions with Councilmember Hendricks.
No question, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you. These fees are in line with our peer communities, correct? We're not above and beyond.
Correct.
And then as far as the increasement annually on the CPI, was it considered to go to the CCI or CPI only? What did we look at there?
It was, but these really aren't construction costs we're incurring. It's really more of a personnel
Personnel
thing,
costs.
so the CCI didn't seem appropriate.
Okay.
Councilmember Hefta.
Yeah, just a big picture, 30,000 foot. I remember that Director Williams back in March, I had asked on the record at a meeting what was the inflation of labor in construction, and I remember he said 28%. So that 28% is passed on to the consumer, that 28% is passed on to all aspects of the supply chain. And you're trying to increase these fees because that's being passed on to the town as well. Could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, just like everything else, the cost of labor has gone up over the last 4 years. Really, we're just trying to make sure we're recovering the same percentage of the cost that was originally intended by the council in '21. So, just like you said, costs are increasing for everything, including labor and personnel. So, this reflects that.
Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Wilks.
No questions, thank you.
And Councilmember Dyak.
No questions.
All right, with that, we'll open up for public comment at 7:43 on Resolution 24-059. Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:43 and bring it back in that reverse order. Councilmember Dyak, any comments?
Yeah, no. Again, it's an unfortunate situation that we have to recapture costs, but that's what we do. We don't try to make money off of people. We try to just recapture as much as we can, as much as reasonable. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks. Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Alex. Well done.
Councilmember Barrington.
No, I guess just to reiterate what Councilmember Dyak said, this is not the town trying to make money. This is just recouping costs, so thank you.
And Councilmember Hendricks.
Thank you for presentation.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on resolution number 24-059.
I move to approve resolution number 24-059.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Hefta, seconded by Barrington. Rivera.
Aye.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Dyak.
Yes.
Wilks.
Aye.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Next up is ordinance number 1.634 on second reading, continued from November 18th, 2024. A bill for an ordinance stating the intent of the town of Parker to acquire certain property interests for the purpose of constructing and improving Stroh Road through the utilization of the town's power of eminent domain, and directing the town staff and town attorney to notify all persons affected thereby of the above stated intent of the town, and thereafter to comply with all the pertinent provisions of CRS Section 38-1-101 et sec relating to good faith negotiations. Mr. Claus.
Evening, Mayor and Council. The moment you've all been waiting for, carrying this one forward. So, intent to acquire ordinance for Stroh widening from J. Morgan Boulevard to Crowfoot Valley Road and Matsumbaka Road. Moving forward. So project description, I've talked about this project a few times here. So a couple more details on it. Widening Stroh Road, 2 lanes to the south with a bridge over Cherry Creek between J. Morgan Boulevard and Matsumbaka and Crowfoot Valley Road. Widening Stroh Road to the west of Matsumbaka and Crowfoot Valley Road to accommodate 2 westbound through lanes. Extension of J. Morgan Boulevard to the south to connect to the South Metro Fire Station. J. Morgan Boulevard and Stroh Road become a signalized intersection with this project, and included are multiple sidewalk connections, including along the north side of Stroh by the soccer park entrance and along the south side of Stroh. So final designs have been completed for this project, and we tend to bid the project out in early 2025. The majority of the proposed pavement widening is on Town of Parker property, but additional easements are needed to construct the proposed improvements. Here's a vicinity map detailing background of the project. I've shown this one a few times, but you can kind of see the overall location of where the project's at. So for right-of-way and easement acquisitions, there's 3 property owners that we need permanent easements from, 6 property owners that we need temporary construction easements from, 3 property owners we'll need right-of-way from, 1 property owner that we'll need a slope easement from, and the needed acquisitions vary by property owner, with the largest acquisition being a temporary construction easement for construction staging on Parker Water and Sanitation District's property, about 2.1 acres. So here's the proposed acquisition summary. There's 5 proposed permanent multi-purpose easements acquisitions totaling to 59,000 square feet approximately. There is 1 proposed slope easement acquisition totaling to about 6,000 square feet. 9 temporary construction easements totaling to 144,000 square feet, which the largest being 91,000 square feet, smallest being about 354 square feet. And then there are 3 proposed right-of-way acquisitions totaling to 31,000 square feet, largest being about 27,000, smallest being 887 square feet. And then total acquisitions across 6 properties is 18 acquisitions total. Just to kind of give you an overview, this is our acquisition map that the engineer for the project put together. You can kind of see this is the west portion. It's the Avalon Bay property on the corner of Stroh and Crowfoot Valley Road there. And then working your way towards the east, it goes into the Parker Water Sanitation District on the south. And on the north is the Stroh Soccer Park. Middle segment, you can also see Parker Water Sanitation's property with Cherry Creek running through it. And then the Creekside Equestrian Facility is more towards the east, kind of working your way that way. And then the east, this was mislabeled on the slide, apologize on that, but this is the east segment. So this is the Creekside Equestrian on that southwest corner of J. Morgan and Stroh. And then you could see the South Metro Fire Station there as well. Just to give a couple examples of some of the easements, I won't go through all of the acquisitions tonight, but the largest proposed right-of-way easement that the proposed right-of-way we're looking to acquire is on the Avalon Bay property that I mentioned. That's on the southeast corner of Stroh and Crowfoot Valley Road. With this particular acquisition, this one is outlined in an annexation agreement already executed with the property owner. So there's this one's kind of a shoe-in per se, but we're including it in this ordinance as well, just so that we're covering all of our bases on this one. So, but this is the largest right-of-way that we'll be requiring for this project. Next is on the Parker Water and Sanitation property. We have already been dedicated a portion of right-of-way for this property. We're just cleaning up a little bit based on some design refinements. So that's why this is kind of a weird-looking shape in a small corner. Also for a traffic signal, a future traffic signal for that Stroh Soccer Park entrance, as well as Parker Water's access there as well. And then for the new development for Avalon Bay. Then this next one is a right-of-way acquisition for South Metro Fire. It's just a sidewalk that we're putting in that'll be on the east side of that J. Morgan extension. And then next is also on the Avalon Bay property, which is a slope easement. So this easement will eventually be vacated once the commercial development takes place on the north side of that property, which would be on the south side of Stroh. So they're aware of this easement, and there should be no issues with this one as well. Proposed permanent easement. So this is for the northwest corner of the soccer park entrance is what we're calling it. This is kind of over by that Hunter's Chase condos development that's taking place. This will be a multi-purpose easement for sidewalk and also for traffic signal infrastructure for the future. No signal will be installed with this project, but it's just anticipation for the future. And then also in this is a permanent easement for the Parker Water property as well, which would include some access, sidewalk connections, and some drainage infrastructure. And then this is that temporary construction easement that I had mentioned on the Parker Water and Sanitation property. This will be where our laydown area will be and access to the property, and also for us to be able to construct the bridge over Cherry Creek. And then last temporary construction easement that I'll mention is a portion on the Creekside Equestrian property. This one is also outlined in a previous agreement with the property owner. This will be for constructing their new driveway access that'll be eliminated on the south side of Stroh, on the north side of their property, and it'll get moved to the to J. Morgan, the extension portion. Let's see. And then again, just to give a summary of the proposed acquisitions. So we have permanent multi-purpose easements that are totaling to about 59,000 square feet. Slope easement acquisition will be approximately 6,000 square feet. Temporary construction easements, 144,000 square feet total. And then right-of-way acquisition will be 31,000 square feet. So town staff will engage in good faith negotiations for the needed right-of-way easements and temporary construction easements. If we're unable to come to an agreement, town staff will coordinate with town council prior to eminent domain action. An ordinance is required to approve this intent to acquire, which will allow town staff to begin formal negotiations with the property owner. And do we have any questions at this time?
Thanks, Nathan. We'll kick off with Councilmember Dyak on questions.
Thank you for making us wait. You could have done this on the 18th.
I could have.
Yes, you could have.
I could have. I told Chris I was ready, put me in coach, but he wouldn't.
That's right. No questions.
Councilmember Welks. Councilmember Hefta.
No questions.
Councilmember Hendricks.
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington.
No questions, thank
And
you.
Councilmember Rivero.
Thank you. So it's should be stated, in order to begin the negotiations, this ordinance has to pass, even though those nasty words of eminent domain are in here. This is all to begin negotiations, correct?
Correct. We've started preliminary negotiations with all the property owners. We anticipate all of these acquisitions to go fairly smoothly and not have to go to the eminent domain process. But yes, you're correct. In order to formally start the negotiations, this is the process we need to go through. Correct.
And then I noticed on one diagram, the new entrance to Creekside looks like it may impact their arena. Is that the case, or are we going to keep away from? Or are they going to keep away from their arena?
No. So the temporary construction easement kind of gets close to their arena. We have to fence off the entire perimeter of the temporary construction easement, which is a little bit larger than what we need to construct the work so we can move around equipment. The actual driveway won't interfere with their arena that's there. I think that the way the boundary is set up from when I looked at it last, that goes just up close to their arena. It doesn't go inside of it.
Thank you.
All right, we will open up for public comment at 7:54 p.m. Ordinance number 1.634. Anyone from the public? Seeing none, we'll close it at 7:54. Bring it back for final comments in that reverse order. Councilman Rivera?
Thank you. Much needed improvement. It's a bottleneck. It's an old bridge, and this is much needed for the southern area of our community. So looking forward to getting this improvement for the public.
Councilmember Barrington?
I agree. It's definitely needed, so thank you for all of your work on this.
Councilmember Hendricks?
I'm in support. Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
Yes, this is an incredible amount of work to get up to this point, and a lot of due process being given here, a lot of communication with the property owners on 6 properties and 18 acquisitions. So thank you for moving this along in a timely manner and explaining these issues to the property owner.
Councilmember Wilkes?
Yeah, you know, when you add it all up, it's roughly 6.4 acres, and so that's a large chunk of land. But you guys have found a way to, in my opinion, use every possible inch that you need to and not take more than what's actually needed for this, and to also plan ahead. Like you said, we're not putting that stoplight in right now, but we know we're going to need one in the future, and so the planning ahead, I really appreciate your guys' work. So thank you.
Councilmember Dyak?
Yeah, no, I was talking to an individual from Meadowlark subdivision a few weeks ago, and he let me know you need to do that Stroh extension. And I'm like, I'll get Nathan right on it.
It's coming soon, I promise.
Yeah, right before I told him it's been on our long range plan for a number of years, and things have to happen. So again, I think people are very aware of the needs, even though they don't potentially look at our long range plan. And I think it's going to be a very welcome addition once we get going. So thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.634.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.634 on second reading.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Hendricks, seconded by Barrington. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes? Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 6-0. Last ordinance for the night is ordinance number 9.381 on second reading. A bill for an ordinance to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Parker and the Parker Water and Sanitation District regarding the conveyance of Woodman Drive. So we've got the making of a very good law firm here with Maloney, Hudson, and Kloss. So Nathan, you're not coming back down for this one? Okay.
Come back down. Lost man, take the big chair.
I thought they were Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Well, the tape is running, so I didn't want to say that,
Didn't stop him.
He's retired.
All right, someone
Okay.
take over here.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. On October 7th of this year, Town Council passed ordinance number 1.628, and this was to provide notice to the Parker Meadows Condominium Association of the town's intent to acquire right-of-way owned by the association for the improvement of Beckett Drive and Brompton Way. The project will be financed by the Parker Authority for Reinvestment and constructed by the town. On October 21st of this year, Town Council approved the redevelopment agreement between the town, PAR, and the association for this project. The project includes the construction of 2 access points for 171 residential units, which are managed by the association. Currently, vehicular access to the residential units is limited to 1 access point, and this is through Beckett Drive. And this private street is managed and controlled by the association. Under the town's public policy for safety, the residential unit should be serviced by 2 points of access when there are more than 30 units. And obviously, we're far over with 171. So in order to establish 2 access points for the residential units, Beckett Drive will be reconstructed as a public street, and Brompton Way will be constructed to connect to Woodman Drive, which is currently owned by the Parker Water and Sanitation District. One of the conditions contained in the redevelopment agreement is that the district will need to convey Woodman Drive to the town. In order to satisfy this condition, the district has agreed to enter into the intergovernmental agreement that is in your packet for approval this evening. The district board itself will address this agreement on December 12th, so you're going first. Assuming the town council approves the IGA tonight, there are several steps that remain to be satisfied before construction can commence. And the next steps include, because you'll see this one more time, the submission of an application to by the association for a replat and site plan. This will be processed as an exemption plat, just to move it through the process quickly. It only requires town council approval. The next is that the exemption plat will be prepared by the town, and all the associated costs of the preparation of the plat and site plan will be paid for by the town. Upon approval of the exemption plat and the site plan, the town will initiate the eminent domain proceeding, and remember, this is non-contested, and this is for the acquisition of Beckett Drive and Brompton Way. The association, as a part of this action, will stipulate that the just compensation for the improvements to Beckett Drive and Brompton Way are the town's payment, PAR's payment of the costs associated with this project. Title to Beckett Drive and to Brompton Way will be conveyed initially to PAR, and this would be by what's called a rule and order, which will be issued by the district court after the action is filed. The next step is that Parker Water will convey Woodman Drive to the town. Under the agreement, I believe there's a 30-day notice that we give them notice, and then they'll go ahead and convey it to us. But we're not going to ask them to convey it to us until we get through these initial steps that I've covered. These steps have to be completed by June 31st of 2025. Once that happens, the town has 24 months to complete the project. Upon completion of the project and acceptance by the town, the authority will at that time convey the right-of-way for Beckett Drive and Brompton Way to the town. And then the last piece, and we talked about this at a prior meeting, is that once we do have the project completed, we've accepted it, we will go ahead and issue a license agreement to the association so that they can manage the parking on Beckett Drive. That's all I had. Chris, did you want to get into some specifics?
Real quick, Jim did a really good job giving the background. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the background slide here, but this shows the 171 units. Their single point of access today is Cottonwood Drive and Cottonwood Way. I'd like to say as easy as 1, 2, 3, but 1 is Beckett, 2 is Brompton, and 3 is Woodman, up there on the map, showing this connection that's going to come out of the neighborhood to provide another connection needed by fire code for all those residential units that are in there. As Jim stated, Woodman Drive is a privately owned street owned by Parker Water and Sanitation District, provides access to their facilities to the west and commercial development to the south. We need Woodman Drive to make this connection. That's what this IGA talks about. Parker Water staff has been wanting to convert this from a private road to a public road for over 10 years. And you ask yourself, why do I know that? They've approached me multiple times about it. And in 2015, with their money, we reconstructed Woodman Drive because it was falling apart. And they needed assistance because they don't do roads, they do water lines. So property conveyance would be via a quick claim deed from Parker Water to the town. And Jim's touched on it before, but there's multiple steps to get to this next point with Parker Water. This IGA has a self-destruct mechanism. If this doesn't come together by June 30th of next year, it is like Mission Impossible paper. It bursts into flames. So this is just a kind of a show of the area that we're talking about conveying for Woodman. It's the majority of Woodman west of Parker Road. I'm going to zoom in. It's less than 500 feet of road. It's down to make the connection to Brompton. Parker Water will still own a portion going into their yard, into their what they call their north plant. Their Woodman Way to the south still remains private. That property that is actually owned by businesses on both sides of Woodman Way is owned by businesses on both sides with an access easement. So again, the town would take the majority of Woodman. And I'm not going to go into specifics here, but June 30th is a really important date in this IGA. This doesn't happen, it terminates. We think it's all going to come together. We're pushing really hard to make this come together. We want to do an IGA to summarize this arrangement, Jim talked about this going to Parker Water's board on the 12th. So the idea is this IGA will get executed this year and be in place. So things will continue to roll into next year. And ordinance is required to approve this IGA. With that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Hefta, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, with the, there was any ability to talk to the residents or at all on this matter?
So the residents of the Condos Association, we've attended their board meetings, and we've fielded some phone calls from the residents. They're aware through their board that this is moving forward.
Okay, and how was the general feeling on this matter, considering they only have one point of access right now, ingress to leave their area, correct?
Yeah, so the board, taking a step back, the board understands they have a burden with Beckett Drive has had very minimal maintenance done to it since the 1980s. They understand the burden that they have to bring this road up, and this is where the Urban Renewal Authority funding is going to bring this road up. We're going to do ADA compliance improvements to it, and we're going to fix the road up and make this connection with urban renewal funding. Some residents aren't happy about it. They live at a dead end, but at the same time, it was their board that came to us wanting this road to happen, to this be converted to a public road. When we took a step back and looked at the amount of residents that were impacted, they only have one point of access. And having worked on the Bradbury culvert failure last year for a month straight, not to say this is a similar situation, but you could have a situation here. What works really good at Bradbury is those people had 2 points of two ways in and out. So did it impact them? Yes. When I go back and look at, I can't go back and look at the slide now, but if we had a failure at Cottonwood Way and Cottonwood Drive, there is no way for those people to get in and out of this subdivision. Could be a water line failure, could be, who knows what the problem might be. And so when you take a step back and look at it from a bigger picture, Laura, this is something that really it's necessary to happen. So.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wilks?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Dyak? No questions. Councilmember Hendricks?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thank you.
And Councilmember Rivera?
Thank you. I think it's important to state in this first action that we took on this, the South Metro Fire Marshal was here to reiterate why it's so important to have 2 points. Can you touch a little bit on that if you could?
Yeah, so the fire marshal, I can't remember his name because the person that was supposed to come was sick and we got Plan B, but very supportive of this. They see the problem as well. How we got here, it's multiple steps over decades is how we got here today. We have an opportunity to fix it. They're very much in support of this. I think it's going to, in the long run, it'll be a benefit to the residents there as well to have multiple ways in and out.
And I think one of the issues was the ability of a fire truck to negotiate Beckett Drive, both coming in and trying to exit.
So some of this started originally 5 years ago. A fire truck came in and couldn't get turned around. Had to back out, which you've seen the big fire trucks that South Metro runs. They don't turn around easily. And that's what kind of started some of this discussion is basically a long dead-end street that there's nowhere for a fire truck to turn around. So they will have the ability to pull through is something the fire department wants.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll open up for public comment at 8:08. If anyone from the public wishes to make a comment on ordinance number 9.381. Seeing none, we'll close it at 8:08 and come back in reverse order with final comments. Councilman Rivera?
Thank you. I mean, again, lots of improvements going on in our community right now. I know there's a lot of orange cones and barrels, but it's all for the betterment of our community and for our citizens. This one, for me, comes down to life safety. This is about being able to get a truck and a bus into people when they need fire services. So I'm all for this one.
Councilmember Barrington?
Yep. Thank you, Councilmember Rivera, for pointing out the safety issue. This has come in front of us multiple times, so sometimes we maybe take for granted that everybody might already know what's going on. But, so it's come in front of us multiple times, and it's been years in the making. And thank you for all of your hard work, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Agreed on the life safety aspect, and I'm in support.
Councilmember Dyak.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I think it's just appreciate support of our partners, P3, willing to look at unique solutions within their area, so we can try to find resolution for life safety issues. Appreciate Parker Water and Sanitation playing ball with us. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilkes.
Yeah, I think last time you guys talked, I pointed out the fact that right now it's not, the other way to get in isn't a quick way to get in. You have to weave through all of these different neighborhoods, and I think it increased the response time by 2 or 3 minutes, which could be the difference between life and death for a lot of people. So just the safety of it alone is why it's so important. But the fact that Parker Water is willing to work with us and help get this done just means of what a great job you guys do to show the importance of this and show how it works best for the community and the people that live there. So thank you.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Yeah, I mean, you have 171 units. If you multiply that by 2, that could be about 342 people that could be impacted by one emergency and probably not be able to get out of their house for the day while a huge fire truck might be there. You also have to take into consideration this was non-contested, and the association also stipulated to the town. The association also wants to work with the town on this. So you have many positives to this, including not inconveniencing residents as well that might have to get to work if we had one emergency shut down that particular road with about 342 people in that one area. So yes, I'm in favor of this.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 9.381.
Council, if you'd let me. I move to approve ordinance number 9.381 on second reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Rivera, seconded by Hendricks. Rivera?
Aye.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Dyak?
Yes.
Wilkes? Hefta?
Yes?
That passes 6-0. And I will acknowledge, I think, Councilmember Hendrick, or Councilman Rivera, that's your last motion as a council member. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what a good one to make. With that, with no other business before the Parker Town Council, we'll adjourn at 8:12. But wait, there's more.